What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bronx Pinstripe Show. Another series win, and it was against a good opponent. Tough part of the schedule, as we discussed, no days off, but they keep winning series, and it was really like a tale of two series, Scott. Offense was on fire in the first two nights, and then the bats got shut down the last 2 days, but they still won 3 out of 4. Keep plowing forward at this point.
That's it, man. That's the thing. You know, like we said last week, even some of these very close games last year, they're not winning. This year, they're winning. And even today, Sunday, Joey Gallo gets involved late in the game and puts it out of reach, which is fantastic considering the way Chapman pitched the night before. I think that they were really looking for a home run just like that so that they could give a little room. But there were some interesting comments. I got to say, some interesting comments made by Boone, some interesting comments that were just, evolved, I think, even more by Michael Kay about the closing situation as well, which we could talk about later. But definitely some things brewing, I'd say, in that bullpen. Good things, but they're definitely brewing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a couple of negatives to talk about from this series specifically, and as we're looking forward into the season, we can save those. We can be positive.
I'm not saying that's negative. I'm saying that they're realizing that there are multiple people there to be able to do the same job, which is a good thing. It's a strength of the team, is what that is.
Chapman struggling is a negative. Doesn't matter how you want to spin it. Him struggling is a negative. But the first two games, offense was just unbelievable, and I was messaging Logan like, what the frick is the park factor on this guaranteed right field? Because everyone always bitches about Yankee Stadium having cheap home runs out to right field, and hey, I'm not gonna call any of Stanton or Judge's home runs out to right field in this series cheap, but they didn't look like they got all of it. Okay, I'll just say that, like, maybe just flipped it out to right field, the thing lands in the bullpen out there, and then the park held the ball the next 2 nights. So go figure, whatever. But I for a second thought, like, man, this stadium's a joke. Stanton and Judge would hit 60 bombs easy if they played home games here.
You can't think that with a straight mind. You just can't think that considering where we play. And I think it's hilarious that it does come into your mind when you're another place, even though the home field of the Yankees is what it is. You still think it. People still think it at times.
But I don't ever bitch about it, or if the White Sox won on like a walk-off home run that just cleared the fence, I wouldn't say it's cheap because I'm not a moron, and I know that the fence is the same for the Yankees as well.
Yeah. No, it's funny. I love the fact that they're even peppering right field at away park. So this is especially if it's short, just keep doing it. It's trolling the entire league, and I love it. Yeah, but again, the way that this team is winning games, this is just another surefire way of saying, hey, this team is really good. They can win in games where their bats are not working. They can win in adversity. And it's fun to watch. It really is fun to watch. You're getting contributions from all over the field, up and down the lineup. So it's good stuff.
And to emphasize the point of getting the contributions up and down the lineup, if you look at their, call it 9 regular starters, 7 out of the 9 have a WRC plus of 100 or better. 100 is league average. So they're league average or better offensive players, and many of them are far and away better. Like Judge's got a 200 WRC plus. Stanton's is 160. Anthony Rizzo's is 150, despite the fact that he's been struggling lately. And then even some like LeCastro, who I know is on the IL now, had a 130 WRC plus. But Donaldson, Glaber, Gallo, also all above league average. And save for a slump the past 10 days, IKF was over that as well. You compare that to last year, they only had 3 regulars above that 100 mark, and DJ was exactly 100. So it was really only 2 regulars, Stanton and Judge, who were above league average last year. So that just goes to show you how much different the lineup is right now. Listen, I know guys are going to go into slumps. Heck, they've had guys in slumps this season. But if one guy's in a slump, someone else is there to pick up the slack. That's that contribution up and down the lineup that you mentioned.
There's definitely this factor that they've gone in and adjusted the lineup, but don't forget, and we can't dismiss also last year how anemic the offense was in the first half of the season too. The last year, I mean, that was the most frustrating part I think about the first half, is when the pitching was really good. Garrett Cole is unhittable. Aroldis Chapman is unhittable in the beginning of last year, and the offense can't hit the broadside of a barn. Like, that shit is frustrating. So when you see that the offense is actually clicking and the dynamic of the way that it's built is working, then hell yeah, you're going to see much bigger numbers than last year for sure. But I think overall, really everybody's happy with the way. Even the guys that you think, like, again, here comes like eye test, nerd test in a lot of different situations. There are a lot of guys that have numbers that I did not expect when you look at the stats. When you look at the stat lines, Donaldson's one of them. Gallo is definitely one of them. But
yeah, Gallo,
they feel different.
Gallo's been good the last seven days or so, and I think that's beefed his numbers up a bit. But even when Gallo struggles, it's like, he's gonna, when he hits the ball, it's probably gonna leave the park, and he's gonna walk a lot. So WRC plus is gonna even when he's struggling be at least 100. Donaldson being up at 130 really surprised me, because it doesn't feel like at any point Donaldson has hit. I know he had that like 9-game hit streak, but
he's got the on base streak too. That's continuous. What is it? 21 games, something like that. I think he's been.
It's one thing a day.
The guy gets on base,
which is good.
Yeah,
it's good. That's positive. You're doing something positive at the plate every night. Like that. Hey, there's nothing to knock. Like you can't shit on that at all. But 130 WRC plus is legit. It's 30% better than league average. Maybe part of this is the rest of the league offense is down, but Donaldson is right there contributing, and really that was the one that stood out to me the most out of the 7 guys above 100.
Yeah, and then if you want to go completely to the other side of it, our catchers are just hanging out at the bottom. They're playing good defense. That's what they're doing. They're hanging out with 30 and 25 WRC plus, playing great defense. Doing their jobs.
The beauty of it is you don't have to complain about the lack of offense out of the catcher when 7 out of the 9 guys and really 8 out of the 9 guys are contributing offensively.
That's exactly
right. IKF has contributed offensively this year. I know he's been in a slump, but he's contributed.
It's beautiful, because when you see that, you see how well the pitching staff is working, how well the team is rolling. And if you care at all, like, there's something wrong with you, I think, if you're complaining about not getting offensive production out of that catcher spot, the way that they have handled this pitching rotation and have played just solid defense the entire time. It's so glaring when you see these numbers and you see how the actual hitters are hitting, and then the guys who really do have to play defense on every single pitch and have to go through the mental the mental roller coaster of, calling a game and staying in with a pitcher and making sure that he's in a good spot. Like, these guys are doing that first and foremost, and it's showing big time. And the offense is also showing, but that's okay.
And sticking with Donaldson, what'd you think of the little agitator play he had on Friday night when he's tagging Anderson, and Anderson didn't like it very much, and benches cleared? It was the lamest benches clearing incident of all time.
Yeah.
The funniest thing is when the bullpen's empty, because the guys are like, oh God, do we really have to jog in for this? Like, this is horse crap. They're picking it up like in the middle of the outfield, like, okay, huffing it and puffing it to the infield. Back up my guys.
They're no David Robertson flying in from the bullpen, but on this particular one, they're like, really guys, and like rolling their eyes as they're lightly jogging into. Just to make sure that they are seen jogging into the field. No, I think it's one of those plays again. Yeah, if I'm on the other side of it, I'm getting real annoyed by Josh Donaldson. And I got to say that, it was a perfect storm with Tim Anderson being the other guy, another highly emotional guy, wears his heart on his sleeve, wears his emotion on his sleeve, who probably made too much of a deal about it. But they were going back and forth the whole series, really. There were definitely words a few times with them. I thought it was fine by Josh Donaldson. Again, we've said this before. He's on our team now. He's our agitator, so I like it.
Not all agitators, though. It's not always a situation where you like the guy who's on your side. Do you remember the Ozzie Guillen quote on AJ Pierzynski, where he was like, yeah, some guys, like, when they're on your side, you love him, but AJ, you still hate him when he's on your side.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. AJ Pierzynski was more than an agitator. He was just an asshole. Yeah. What's his name? Jason Barrett, I think it was the catcher who cold clocked him, on the field. Like, it gets very personal with him. So yeah, different type of agitator.
Do you think he was more hated as a player or his brief time as a broadcaster, which I feel like was not good?
I think he's still doing something.
Is he?
Yeah,
Fox Sports or something, right?
With his stuff. His playing career, no doubt about it. I've caught myself accidentally hearing what he said and liking a couple of things. I didn't even know it was him, and then I was a little upset that I knew when it turned out it was him. It's like, man, I did not want to like that what the guy just said.
It's like Harold Reynolds. That's for me.
No, I love Harold Reynolds. Love Harold Reynolds.
Stanton's monster first 2 games, and then it comes right around the weird take by Brian Kenny. And hey, I'm a Brian Kenny fan. He's been on the show. Loved talking to him. I thought he made a lot of good points when I talked to him, but I don't know what the hell he was talking about with Stanton not being good for the Yankees. I mean, the only thing he said that was accurate is that Stanton's a streaky hitter. Like, yeah, we know Stanton goes into streaks, which I also find interesting because very analytically driven people don't usually believe in streaks. There's no hot streaks or cold streaks. That's just what you are. Every time you go up there, it's like a new day, a new at bat. You're going to do whatever.
That feels like it feels like some like yoga term. It's just such like, are they manifesting their at bat? That's what that sounds like.
But we know Stanton goes into streaks. And
yeah, he goes into
Kenny
streaks.
was right about that. But then he's like, oh, he can't hit good pitching. And I also, it's like, don't know how you even necessarily can say that about anyone, because good pitching always shuts down good offense. Like, if you're an elite pitcher, you have the advantage. No one's going to hit you. Like no one had great numbers off Pedro Martinez except Enrique Wilson. Okay. He's the only one who ever could hit Pedro Martinez. And even he was just like, kind of okay. 250 or something like that. So to say Stanton can't hit good pitching is just like out of nowhere. And then you look at his playoff numbers, and he's had some pretty good playoff series for the Yankees. I know it's not like the biggest sample size, but his OPS is pretty strong in the playoffs. So it was just a really odd take from BK.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand it. And it was really bad timing, too, because Stanton took Dylan Cease deep twice in the game on the day that he's talking about this, not being able to hit, good pitching when this guy's a Cy Young candidate going up against him, and he's, dotting 97-mile-an-hour fastballs, and he takes him deep twice. So I didn't quite understand where he was going with it, to be honest. It was a little erratic and all over the place, and a bit of a stretch. So I think we know who Giancarlo Stanton is. And I got to say, ever since he, started playing defense and doing it more consistently, I think he's been a hell of a lot more of a consistent, complete player. So I got no problems whatsoever with Giancarlo Stanton. Not to mention he handles his business like a professional, as much as anybody can.
When Giancarlo is hot, he can hit anyone. The best pitcher in the world. When he's cold, he can't hit a high school
chopping
pitcher.
Wood.
Okay,
yeah, he's
so
chopping wood.
That's just living with Giancarlo in your lineup. Like, it's
when
real
he's
good
hot,
or real bad.
When he's hot, he's the best player in baseball. He's that good. He's ridiculous. He doesn't miss, and he hits everything 115 miles an hour. So, and you just see that look in his face when he's up there with his, the hands going, and he's just like making death eye contact with the pitcher. It's fun to see him when he's completely locked in. So he did it the other night when who was it? Oh, it was our guy. Oh my God, it's Rex Specs. Why can't I think of his name? That was with the Red Sox.
Joe Kelly.
Yeah, thank you, Joe Kelly. Joe Kelly threw up and in 2 times, and Stanton stood his ground and then put a ball that was a breaking ball down and away into right field, dropping in a base hit. I thought it was a hell of an at bat because damn well who Joe Kelly definitely goes up and in to intimidate, to get you off the plate, and Stanton was just standing there like, bring it, and then he flipped a breaking ball to the outside, which he had no business touching. Just catches enough where he flares it into right field. I thought it was a hell of an at bat, and just really shows what kind of a hitter he is when he's locked in, because he's swinging out of his shoes and missing that ball by 1.5 feet if he's in a slump.
And maybe this is naive of me to think, and it's not actually true, but I do believe that the slumps are quicker and the consistency is more when he's in the field. And I can't explain it, right? Like, I think Paul O'Neill called it just being a baseball player. He's contributing in other ways. What?
It's a very Paul O'Neill thing to say.
It's so stupid, but it's also so smart, because when you're just DHing and all you can do is go into the tunnel and take more batting practice, you kind of feel disconnected. You feel like you're not in the game. You're not a part of the action. And if you go 0 for 3 in the night and you got your 4th at bat and you're feeling crappy, it's like, okay, here we go again, 4th at bat. But if you're 0 for 3 and you make a nice play in right field, maybe you throw a guy out, maybe you make a nice over-the-shoulder catch, you're feeling positive about yourself.
Look, I think there are some guys in the league that are absolutely much better in the designated hitter position where they can't play defense. They're not good athletes. They're meant to do that. Giancarlo Stanton is just not one of them. He is a specimen. He is a special athlete where, he and Aaron Judge are monsters, but are built and run. They move like they're 6'2". So they are just large human beings that have freakish athletic ability that deserves to be on display on both sides of the baseball diamond. So I want to watch him play defense because he can play defense, and I want to watch him hit. So when a guy like that is able to do both of those things at such a high level, there's no reason for him not to be able to play both ways.
What'd you think of Luis Gil's first outing of the season? I mean, it wasn't spectacular.
No.
First, interesting, we didn't mention this in the last episode. First start by a Yankee who wasn't the starting five that they started with, which I know you're never going to go an entire season with just your five, but you make it to the middle of May and it's your five guys. That tells you how consistent, how healthy they've been. It's such a positive thing. Can't go understated.
So the first inning of Luis Gil was electric. I love it. I love his demeanor. I love him coming out there. He's got that fastball that, my God, does it rise. It's just, it pops out of his hand. He reminds me of, when Severino's on, it reminds me of the demeanor of just like commanding the mound. He's got that presence. And then, he's got to locate. The biggest thing for him has always been his fastball command. If he can locate his fastball, he's going to be really, really difficult to hit against. And we've seen that. Last year he went, when he came up, those first few outings were really good, and he was electric. His fastball is nasty. It really is. I think I sent a message here asking about the spin rate, but whatever it is, that I can only, my eyes are seeing the ball spin because it's friggin' rising as he's as it's crossing the plate. It looks like it's got he's a lot of fun. He's a lot of fun to watch. I hope we can see him put it together completely, but he may with his repertoire, if he can look at that fastball, he may have bullpen pegged later in his career. We'll see.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to be a bullpen arm when your command is that spotty.
Right.
And you can't really be trusted in any sort of leverage situation when Chapman's off, he's crippling because he can't locate his fastball. And it's like watching a slow car crash. It's painful.
And let me be clear, because I think for Luis Gil, he's got enough of a repertoire to be a starting pitcher. If he can locate that fastball, I mean, he definitely has huge potential. The guy we saw today, Kopech, is a similar, Kopech's obviously further along, but a similar type of player where electric stuff, has enough pitches, as long as he can locate. I mean, the reason the Yankees were, won today's game or were in a position to win it when they were up 3 was walks. They had one hit, they had IKF hit, and everything else was walks and a wild pitch. So
it was the only time they had base runners, wasn't it? Second inning up until the end, the only time they even had base runners in that game.
After, I thought IKF got a hit early in the game. Someone got a hit early in the game, and then there was a long stretch. Yeah. So it was, but I mean, again, like if a guy like that, that's the thing. When we're talking about Nestor Cortes today. We'll get to him, but the type of pitcher that he is, we've mentioned this. Kay was talking about this on the broadcast. Like, scouts won't put their name on the line for a guy like that. They will put their name on the line for a guy like Luis Gil or a guy like Kopech, who's lighting the gun and has the ability to be like all dominant in the world if they can put it together. But you got a guy like Nestor Cortes, like it's the tortoise and the hare, just plugging along, figuring it out, learning another pitch, learning another arm angle, drinking a beer, growing a mustache, throw the ball over the plate, dominate. That's what he's doing. And he's getting there.
Do you think the opposing team gets mad that they're getting shut down by Nestor Cortes?
I think a lot of people respect him at this point just because he's got some sustained. The first couple times, hell yeah. But now at least he's established himself and he's done it enough times where it's not a new fluky thing.
Well, I can put myself in the shoes of the opposing fans, right? And if the Yankees get shut down by someone like Nestor Cortes, I'm pissed off. I'm infuriated. I'm raging. I'm like, why can't you hit this guy? He's not lighting up the radar gun. His stuff doesn't look elite. But then you watch him pitch more and more and more, and you realize why he's been so successful. And I think part of it is the fact that there's fewer and fewer guys in the league like him, and I think that plays to his benefit.
Guys not all the way like Nestor, but different, but similar to the style. Kikuchi has had success against the Yankees. You
Yeah.
go far back, you go to guys like Jamie
And it
Moyer.
pissed me off when Kikuchi had success against the
Guys like Jamie Moyer, who pitched against the Yankees forever,
Oh my
who
God.
had success. Like there are a number of these guys. What's his name? Marco Gonzalez, who was with the Orioles and then with Seattle. Like that guy was, for whatever reason, gave this Yankees team fits. The guys who can change you up and locate. I mean, the location is huge for any pitcher, but if you can locate and change things up, you're going to give a team a hard time, especially when you're going up against every other night a guy that's throwing 95, 97, 100 miles an hour. It's a different look.
Yeah, Logan just dropped in Nestor's StatCast rankings, and it's actually really funny to look at because he's in the red, which is good on like all of the advanced metrics: hard hit percentage, expected weighted on base average, expected ERA, batting average, slugging percentage, barrel percentage, K percentage, and then he's near the bottom of the league, bottom 3 percentile in fastball velocity. I don't give a shit about that. When the rest of it looks that beautiful and he's getting that kind of success, who the hell cares? And we should just talk about him now because another amazing start. His ERA is now second in baseball, 1.35. His whip, 0.85, is fourth in baseball, second in the American League. His batting average against is third in Major League Baseball at 164. He's striking out 11 guys per 9 innings. So it's not like he's just getting, easy fly balls and ground balls. He's still striking guys out. It's the best 7-game start to a season of any Yankee pitcher since David Cohn in 1999. And he's in a company of elite pitchers over any 2-game span with a Yankee pitcher of 15 innings, so less than 4 hits, less than 1 run, and 18 plus strikeouts. He joins Roger Clemens and Mike Messina as the only 3 Yankees pitchers to ever do that.
That's crazy. It really is. And, when you look at guys, the thing is when I just think we haven't seen it as often recently as this, the lefties who come in and throw like Nestor, but it's been happening for a very long time. I just looked up quickly. Marco Gonzalez is definitely one of the guys that made. There's a most soft tossingest lefty since 2002 article in 2019 on Fangraphs, and Mark Burley is up there. Fastball velocity miles per hour 86. Marco Gonzalez is 88. Mark Burley was a guy that threw in the mid 80s. There are a lot of lefties that have thrown even softer than Nestor that have had success.
But relative to the league, because the league wasn't throwing 98 miles an hour back then. The league
Correct.
fastball was probably 92 miles an hour. And now it's 90, 94, 95 is the average fastball in Major League Baseball now. So Nestor's throwing 90, 91, but that looks like it's 80, like the 86 that Jamie Moyer was throwing.
So Marco Gonzalez in 2019 fastball velocity of 88.9. But yeah, you're right in the fact that it's relative, which I think is even better. As long as you have the difference, that's the biggest thing. Whether you're throwing 95 and then 87 or 192, as long as you have that difference from where the top velocity is, does it really matter? It's because you're at that point just making the adjustment from whatever the highest is in that moment or in that era.
And Nasty Nestor is now plus 1,500 on WinBet for Cy Young. You throwing a hundo on that?
Hey, I wish I threw a hundo on that at the end of last year, or beginning of this year when it first came out.
Montgomery, again, like another solid start. Nothing spectacular, but it's just the lack of run support. The Yankees have averaged 2 runs a game for him when they're averaging pretty much 5 runs a game for all of the other pitchers. He's allowed 12 earned runs in 35 innings. Again, really good. The Yankees' results, though, you look at these. They've lost 4-3, 2-1, 3-0, 4-2, and 3-2 when Montgomery's on the mound. It's like, where's the Giancarlo Stanton 6 RBI career night when Monty is on the mound?
It's getting to a point where you just feel bad for the guy because he's pitching pretty well and he's doing well enough to win some of these games, and it's just not happening. It's just not happening. And you knew damn well when walking into that game with the amount of runs that had been scored before that you're like, man, like at some point it's going to go the other way. Probably today because of Monty.
Definitely when Montgomery's on the mound, it's going the other way.
Those are unfortunate. I don't think we can pick a Jordan Montgomery game at all for our WinBet segment because of the run
pound
support.
The under whenever Monty's going to be on the mound. Pound the under, I guess.
Yeah,
because he's not going to give up a ton of runs, and the Yankees sure as shit ain't going to score anything.
Right. They voluntarily take that day off every week.
And the Saturday game, I guess, is the frustrating game in the series to point. Obviously, it's the only game they lost, but it's a game that you feel like was right there for them to win. They tied the game, and then IKF when the Yankees tied it on the Higgy sac fly, IKF also trying to tag and go to third base, and he gets nabbed there, and it would have been a guy on second base for the top of the order, DJ and Judge, and you're like, oh, that's just a killer. And then 2 minutes later, Chapman's on the mound crapping himself. So, and to credit to IKF, took ownership after the game. As we've said a billion times on this show, stand in front of your locker and tell people I made a mistake, and everyone will move on.
Also did a very positive thing right before that, got on base, stole a bag immediately. Like the guy has his head in the right place. And I will be an apologist for forever. The fact when I heard that he stood in front and just feel like bonehead play will never happen again. I'm just like, I love you. I love you even more. I love you in fault. I love your faults. I love you. I love all of the things that are wrong with you too.
It's like the Dr. Evil when he's going to Mini-Me. I love you.
Yeah, I love you. But it's beautiful because you have a guy like that. Yes, there are two things here that obviously it was not a good play. You know, he misread it clearly, whether he thought he was just, further down the line and he didn't think that
I think he thought the throw was going through. I think he
had an opportunity,
yeah.
Or if he just, exactly, didn't think it was going to get cut and was just trying to steal a bag there. The intent, being on third base with one out with LeMahieu and Judge, good thing. Also being on second with LeMahieu and Judge. You got to be on base one way or another. And being at second base, you just don't take that extra risk unless you damn well know that ball is not getting cut and it's going through. And it was just a bonehead play, unfortunately.
Yes. And Boone also said, he likes the aggressiveness that the Yankees have shown on the bases, and he likes the thinking that if I can get to third base, DJ, he's going to do something positive, put the ball in play, and probably score that run from third.
I think he struck out, but
he just didn't like the execution. Don't like the execution because he got picked off there. But I kind of point to when so Rizzo also stole a bag earlier in that game, and he stole third base again, but he stole third base with one out. So that I'm much cooler with. You get to third base with one out, that makes sense. You set up the sac fly. I don't see the value when Rizzo's trying to steal third with two outs like that. So it's that sort of smart base running that I just feel like the team needs to be on point. And I'm now thinking of this team can win a World Series. Like, let's all be real. To start the season, we all put on a good face and said, we hope they can win the World Series. We think they're going to be competitive, but we needed to see it with our own eyes. It's now the middle of May. They have the best record in baseball. The pitching staff has been elite. The offense looks much more consistent, much more dynamic than it has in past years. I understand they're probably going to go into a slump at some point this season, but I've seen what it looks like when things are going well, and that is the best team in baseball. So now they can win the World Series. And if they're going to win the World Series, you can't get thrown out at third there trying to tag up in the ninth inning. You have to play smart baseball in October baseball.
Bold prediction number 5 from Scott Reinen this year. Commitment to defense and creating a more balanced roster of skill set and veteran leadership pays off as Yankees win the AL East and take the number 1 seed into the playoffs. Some people did see it. Some people did see, what was going to happen.
I also predicted them to make the playoffs.
I said win the AL East though. That was the nut up moment of the week. Someone came with the bold predictions. But this team is gelling. You're right in that sense. But the thing is, base running. I love the fact that they are aggressive base runners. I hear you in that they have to clean it up in situations like that. You can't make those mental mistakes. And the fact that they're running more, they're being more aggressive right now. That's how you can also fine tune that part of your game. They are running wild. Boone is essentially letting these guys feel the game out and do the things that they believe that they should be doing. That was not a called from the dugout steal from Rizzo, because if it was, damn well Hicks would be running there. Hicks did not know he was running and just had a bad first step, got caught going back and just couldn't get to second base. He ended up getting there later with stealing a bag, but it was an instinct play, and Rizzo has done it. I think it was the third time we've seen him do that.
Third time he's attempted to steal. Yeah. He's 2 for 3.
Right, and again, like he's shown the knack to be able to do that. But I agree. With 2 outs, you got to make the decision and understand what the risk is there. And I think they clean all these things up. But I love the fact that they're aggressive because they're stealing bags and they're going first to third. They're doing the things on the field that we just haven't seen in a while. And I absolutely love it.
We pulled some base running. Logan pulled some base running stats just to see where they rank in baseball. And base running is one of those tricky things, right? Like, how do you even measure base running? I feel like measuring base running is a lot of eye test. You got to watch every game. You got to watch the plays that they're making, and you can identify good and bad base running plays. But there's a couple stats. So RS percentage is run scoring percentage, which is the percentage of time a base runner eventually scored a run. I'm not really crazy about that. Like, I feel like that's too dependent on other things happening, right? Like, if
the player at the plate, doing things, right?
Like the guy gets on first base and the next guy gets a 2-run home run. Like, is that good base running? Like, no. But I like the category of XBT percentage, extra bases taken percentage, because extra bases can make or break you in certain innings. It's the percentage of times a runner advanced more than one base on a single or more than two bases on a double. And in this stat, the Yankees are middle of the pack, 15th in Major League Baseball. They have a percentage of 43, which is exactly league average. In 2021, they were 26th in Major League Baseball with 36%, which is well below league average. So if we're just comparing that base running from this year to last year, it's night and day better. But they're pretty middle of the road in all of the stats: stolen base percentage, outs on the bases. They've made 10 of them so far. It's tied for 7th most in majors, but that's also comes with more runners on base.
And being aggressive, it's more indicative also of being more aggressive. You're going to get thrown out. Like, that's going to happen. That's something that, when fans are watching this team, we just haven't seen that in a while besides a terrible third base coach. That's the only time you see these guys getting thrown out. It's not necessarily like being aggressive all throughout the game plan. This is a different game plan. This is a different mindset that if you see a bag to take that damn bag. Like, that's what this team is doing. They're stealing. They also have different makeup of players where they can actually do these types of things. Rizzo, the sneaky base running, I didn't know that about him. I love that about him. I think that's great. That's an instinctual thing.
We didn't see that last year when he came over.
Yeah, I'm not remembering it at least, but I love it. I really do. That's the type of shit that can sneak you a playoff game. That type of instincts on the base path. If you're doing it in a way that executes, but
you better be safe though. If you're stealing third base in a playoff game,
that's part of it. That's part of that instinct. The being safe is part of the instinct. So, and then you have straight base runners now and base stealers. Guys like IKF who can go in there and steal a base.
But Castro was a weapon for them.
Castro absolutely has been very good. And I mean, dude, Hicks could steal bases if you want Hicks to steal bases too.
30,
he's fast.
30-30.
Yeah.
30 out of Hicks.
He's got it. He's got it. So there are guys in this lineup that can do damage. Not to mention Judge. I don't really want him stealing bases necessarily, but he can.
Judge is a good base runner, though.
Yes, he is. And he's also a good base running athlete.
Good base running is scoring on a double from first in the gap or down the line. And it's making the right reads on a bloop single that is going to fall in and going first or third. That, I feel, what?
He did that yesterday.
Right. But that kind of base running, I feel, is much more important to the Yankees' success this year than just stealing bases. Stealing bases is nice, and you might have to steal a base to set up a run scoring situation, but that's what you have LeCastro hopefully when he comes back for as a pinch runner. It's the rest of the lineup making good base running decisions to set up run scoring opportunities that's really going to take this team far.
Yes, but the aggressiveness of the team, it can't just be one guy who's coming off the bench. I mean, there are other guys on this team that can swipe a bag if needed. Because how many times are we going to see, a relief pitcher coming in a game that has a slow delivery? We saw it last night, and you just take advantage of what's given to you. To me, that's part of it. If you can't execute on that, which I feel like in the past we haven't, even though there have been guys that should be able to do that, they just for whatever reason either were hesitant to do it, or would not do it, or just couldn't do it.
Sorry.
But now, just a simple thing like that, when you're looking at last night, and taking the extra bag because someone is slow to the plate. I love it. That is the sign of a good team.
We're so jolly about this team. We're so positive about this team.
How could you not be?
No, I know.
Everything's going well. Everything's going exactly the way it should have ever gone.
And pointing out the base running and having to clean up a couple mistakes, I think I think it still needs to be touched on, right? It can't just be ignore. Oh, they won the series. Like, let's ignore all the bad, because this is the type of stuff that they're going to need to play well if they're going to win the championship. And another thing is Chapman not coughing up the lead in the 9th inning. Yeah.
So Bevan, my wife Bevan, when she was in the classroom teaching first grade and maybe a couple of grades above that, but pre-K 5 elementary school. They instead of pointing out anything negative, they point out at the end of the week, they do their glows and they do their grows. So you talk about the positive things, and then you talk about the things you got to work on, strive to be better, so that they can turn from a grow to a glow. That's how this season has become, and it's amazing that that you're part of it. I'm happy. I'm happy that you're part of it.
Let's talk to our audience like they're first graders. Love it.
Yeah, it's great. Talking about the players,
but it's easy to do where we're spending most of the shows talking about all the positive things and all the things that we like seeing, because that's what they're doing on the field. 90% of what they're doing has been positive. That hasn't been the case in recent years. And Chapman's 6.9 walks per 9 innings, third worst in percentile in walk percentage in baseball. 7 walks per 9 innings out of Chapman, out of your closer. It's not sustainable. I'm not going to even call it unacceptable. It's not sustainable.
No, it's true. And part of, another, referring back to the predictions that we were making, I had Loaiza taking that spot at some point, I think in September or whenever it was.
He hasn't been great.
No, it may not be Loaiza.
He gave up the home run to allow. I mean, it's kind of forgot about in the blowout on was that Thursday night?
The bigger point is that Chapman's not the guy at the end of the year, and whether it's Loaiza or somebody else. The overwhelming point here is the situation what Chapman's in. Like you just mentioned, the walks. The walks are unsustainable. You can't do it. You're going to get into too much trouble. And there are just too many guys in the back of that bullpen that can do an effective job. And that is the big thing. And that's what they were talking about today. But when you have a guy like Chapman whose contract is coming up, and you're not that good, you got to figure something out for the next time. So if it's not working in the middle of the season, and that was kind of why I went this way in the prediction, the more I think about it, it's not all that bold. It's more about who's going to do it and who's going to be the guy. But this year it may not be that guy. And that's what Boone was talking about and Kay was talking about on the broadcast today, is they have trust with multiple guys in the back of that bullpen.
That's a slippery slope.
It's a slippery slope, but when you have guys that are, who did this? The Kansas City Royals were a team that did this 5-6 years back and were dominant.
When they won the championship, what's his name? Was it
He
Wade?
Was nasty. No, but they had multiple guys in the back that could stand in there in the ninth and do the job just like anybody could.
But Wade Davis was the closer, okay? You had guys that could pitch the 6th, 7th, and 8th innings, but Wade Davis was the elite closer, okay? I'm not saying a closer by committee won't work, but it rarely ever works.
When you look at the back of this rotation, and I do expect Loaiza to get back on track, whether he's that guy or not, or one of the guys, I do expect it. You have multiple
be the natural
guys,
slot in.
But you have multiple. You're right, for sure. You have multiple guys though that you can play matchups, and that's a great thing to have. That's a great thing to have. I don't know necessarily if I want to put that decision on Boone totally at this point. He's trending in the right direction, I guess, but there are a lot of guys you could trust back there.
And that's not even the man. Like, if you've got a closer by committee, you're in a position that's set up to fail, because when inevitably you send the guy out there for the 9th inning and he's off, then the blame goes to, why didn't you use the other guy?
Well,
it's a lose-lose situation. Whereas when you have your closer, who's just your closer, and he's good and he has an off night, it's like, well, that's my closer, and he got hit. Like when Mariano Rivera blew a save, no one's calling up being like, why did Joe Torre throw Mariano Rivera in the 9th inning?
Oh, that was a really good example. You just used literally the only unanimous person that's ever gotten to the Hall of Fame ever. Yeah, Chapman. No shit.
When Chapman was pitching well, right?
Yes.
If Chapman's pitching well, and then Boone goes to Chapman and he just has a bad night, no one is being like, why did he pitch Chapman in the 9th inning?
Correct. But when that's been happening since, the year before, and it's continuing to happen, he's still getting himself in hot water with these walks and not controlling that fastball, it doesn't become a second guess at that point. It's almost a second guess of Boone actually going back to that guy and being stubborn and bullheaded and just using him as a closer because he's getting paid like a closer, and that's what it says on the back of his baseball card. Like, this team's too damn good for that. You need to make sure that you get the last out in the ninth inning. And to me, it doesn't matter who you're doing. If Chapman is not going well and he is not throwing the ball over the plate, again, multiple guys that I feel confident going into that last inning.
Logan, can you look something up for me? How many times has Chapman pitched before the ninth inning this year? Because remember, that was going to be a thing before the season.
Yeah.
They were going to try and get him involved in games so he doesn't have a long rest, to try and keep him more regular. And then he doesn't have these meltdown moments where it's like, oh, I haven't pitched in 5 days, so of course he's going to suck. And I don't think that was a case of what happened the other night, because he hadn't pitched in 2 days. That's not too long. 2 days
Base
is
runner
not
got
too
on
long.
and he was a different guy.
Yeah.
I got it right here. He has pitched before the ninth inning a whopping 0 times. He hasn't done it.
This is the
really?
first one.
I thought he pitched the 8th inning one time.
Well,
I could have sworn he did.
Wasn't it the ninth inning? It was just a tie game at that point, right?
No, this was the 9th inning,
Yeah.
but I thought earlier in the season. I guess not. Okay. So,
But this is effectively the same thing, because you're on the road in a tie game, and you're putting him in there. It's not a close situation. It's not a situation where you can win the game.
but
when
it's
he's
the
done
last
pitching.
situation. If you go to extras, it's the last no runners on base situation, which maybe they were trying to avoid with him. Because you get the runner on second base to start the 10th inning.
Well, no. Right. Yeah. The Mickey Mouse rule. I forgot.
So it was technically,
I forgot about the co-ed softball rule.
It was technically, now you have more of an incentive for a guy like Chapman to pitch him in the 9th inning, because it's the last clean inning.
That's interesting. I did not think of that actually in the moment of the fact that there's
I just thought of it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the last opportunity for an actual clean inning.
Yeah. Stupid rule. God, it's dumb.
No, but so, like, whether you were going to save him or not, like, he was off, and he's been off a lot. Like, Logan dropped in the stat, his expected ERA is like 4.5, but his actual ERA is under 2. So if you're just looking, next time they flash Chapman's numbers on Yes Network, and it's like, oh, 1.9 ERA, Chapman's been elite this year. Anyone who's watched him pitch more than twice knows he has not been elite this year.
So again, I do not fault Boone, and I think he's already starting the narrative and talking about it a little bit, and that's a good thing. We're still in May, talking about that right now. No surprises then. And again, it really doesn't get as clear as that. You can say it just so cleanly now too, because he's not under contract after this year. That's a big deal.
Okay, so here's a question. They pulled Chapman from the closer role. Who are you doing, committee, or are you slotting a guy in there and giving him a shot to take the position by the balls?
I mean, I think at this point during the season, they're going to go by committee. I don't think they're going to commit to one person for a while. Maybe they ride that hot hand at the end of the year, and whoever it is, and you start to see someone emerge. But there's no reason for them to do it at this point in the season. There really isn't. And if it is one person, it's Holmes. Right now.
Yeah, I feel like that's who they would pick, is Holmes.
Yeah. But again, I don't think you need to do that right now. You don't. Why do that? He's starting the narrative. He's talking about it. The fact that they're going to use multiple guys potentially, depending on the matchup. There's many guys that can do it. I don't mind the fact that he's starting that right now.
The only reason that you pick a guy is because the closer by committee has historically backfired, and it's been very difficult to manage.
But again, like, you don't need to commit to that until later. I think that if you go into the playoffs with exactly what you're saying, and you haven't had a guy that's been the guy, then that's a different situation. But if you kind of let the chips fall how they may, and you see who's pitching the best in September, then you could very clearly pick a guy at that point, or just start really going to a guy at the end of the season. That could definitely happen.
I'm going to borrow one of our mailbag questions quickly from Jason. He's been a longtime listener of the show. He says, for the next episode, can you discuss how confident you are in Chapman in a playoff game?
Yeah, I'm not.
Obviously, there's a long way to go before the playoffs, but
yeah, but it's more of just a confidence factor in him, period, because we have seen him walk off many playoff losses, unfortunately, and walk off as the guy who threw the last pitch, and we know he gets erratic, and you get a runner on base, and it becomes a much bigger deal. And if it's hot, God forbid it's hot out, man, the guy's sweating like a stuck pig, and you can't control the damn ball.
At least it's cold in October. I mean, yeah, I know he's got the high-profile home runs allowed, but more concerning for a playoff game is 7 walks in 9 innings.
Yeah. So again, I think this is one of those situations where you can let it play out and let the players kind of take care of the situation between the lines.
All right, quickly, let's go through some stats on some guys who have been hot and those who have been not. First of all, Yankees are on pace for 119 wins. All right, I like that.
It's pretty good.
I saw someone in the Facebook group, the Bronx Pinstripe Show Facebook group, say that they think this team could be have a better record than the 98 team. Listen. 750 win percentage is mighty impressive. It's May 15th. If they've got a 750 win percentage on August 15th, then we can talk.
Yeah, but do you remember how that team started out? So of course it's gonna get even higher.
1-4. Yeah. 90. Fun fact: 98 Yankees started out 1-4.
Right.
And then won every game the rest of the way. Stanton has been just on fire as we talked. His OPS over the last 15 games is over 1,100. Gallo, out of nowhere. Last 15 games, 268 batting average, which I'm sorry, a 268 batting average out of Joey Gallo is like Ted Williams hitting
like
400. Okay?
Yeah.
That is stunning over a 41 at-bat span with a 1,022 OPS. Judge has been the best player on the team, 1,100 OPS, just hitting over 300. Donaldson, like we said, 830 OPS over his last 15 games. But man, Gallo's sneaky.
Gallo's, yeah. I mean, he's been getting the walks, and he's been productive. There's no doubt about it. You can't shit on a guy that is improving or hopefully finding something. It's just a matter of how long it lasts. That's the big thing with him. Look, this if they could turn Gallo around and Gallo becomes a guy that's not one of the true 3 outcomes guy, if he's a guy that's doing something a little different too, you got to give the most incredible amount of credit to this coaching staff. I'm already giving it to Blake in the way that he's handled the pitchers over the last couple of years. I noticed you stopped
calling him by the wrong name.
Yeah, he deserves the right name now. I would always do that on purpose, for the record.
Oh, really?
But they've been so good. They've been very, very good. And the committee hitting coach by committee is a work.
It's a committee might work. Closer by committee, not so.
9,000 coaches. It's working.
We're waiting for Rizzo to snap out of it. He was leading the league in home runs, and ever since that Kansas City series, I feel like he's been ice cold. He's got a 552 OPS over his last 15 games, and Hicks 511 OPS over his last 15 games. So if you're trying to point out the couple guys in the lineup that have been not so good, it's Rizzo and Hicks, and Rizzo batting right in the middle of the order between Stanton and Judge. You figure it would be easy for him to turn it around, right? Like, he should be getting good pitches to hit. He's just been cold.
Yeah, no, it's a great lineup to hit in if you're between any of those guys. And at this point, I don't even know how you consider Hicks in the leadoff spot in any kind of consistent basis. You got to dump him at the back of the lineup until he can show something.
He hit 9 the other day. Good.
Yeah, I know.
Got him 9th.
Yeah.
Second leadoff guy. Let him walk. Let him go 0 for 3 with a walk, because that's what he's going to do. And hopefully the walk comes in a situation where it's big, right? Like he did with the bases loaded today.
Boone's been pulling the right strings. He's been pulling the right strings, and he's been doing the things that should be done. And Hicks in that 9 spot is the right move.
All right, let's talk about a game coming up this week that we're going to put some dollar bills on. We're going to do so using the WynnBET app. WynnBET is now live in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Tennessee, and Virginia. They bring the excitement of the Wynn Las Vegas to online sports betting and casino play. From boosted same-game parlays to live in-game odds on every major sport, WynnBET has what you need, and you can sign up today and receive a special offer. Bet $50 and win $200. Use our code XBlueWire, all one word. Download the app, XBlueWire, for the code. So, usually we just pick a game. So last week we said we're going to bet on the Garrett Cole versus Dallas Keuchel game, and that game didn't end up happening because the rotation got messed up. So it's it
was the Garrett Cole game. The
Garrett Cole game.
The reason why we were looking at that game, one, Keuchel had been struggling. He didn't struggle against the Yankees, which was something. I got another guy who does not throw more than 90 miles an hour. And then you have Garrett Cole, who's just been, a dominant Garrett Cole-like pitcher again ever since that rough start.
Yeah.
So of course you go with Garrett Cole. It's the Garrett Cole.
I wanted to mention this about Garrett Cole. So I was jazzed up watching him get fired up on picking up IKF on the ball that he booted in that first inning. Like that kind of shit I'm a sucker for. It's like the pitcher who gets excited for the teammate that booted the ball and put him in a bad spot. Yeah. Whereas we've seen other pitchers be like, you boot a ball, Michael Pineda, you boot a ball behind Michael Pineda, you might as well just pack up, go home. Let's see you tomorrow night because he's going to give up a 9 spot.
Yep. Yes, that's correct. Garrett Cole, but also the fact that Garrett Cole kind of takes it personally to pick his guys up because he knows his guys are going to need to get his back, and it's just one of those leadership points there. So I'm glad he wears the emotion on his sleeve in situations like that. But this week, man, after the last few games of kind of struggling at the plate, when you face the Baltimore Orioles at Yankee Stadium, good things are going to happen. Or at least you think that good things are going to happen on the offensive side.
We say that, and then we see that tomorrow's game, so Monday night's game, as you're listening to this, the over-under is 8.5 runs. Luis Severino is going up against a guy by the name of Kyle Bradish, who you've never heard of, I've never heard of. It's because no one's ever heard of him. The Yankees have never faced him, and he's only made a handful of major league starts. And usually when the Yankees face a guy that they've never seen and no one has ever seen, it doesn't go so well for them. So are you taking the over or the under? I feel like that's, even if you think they're going to win and Sevy's going to put up a good night, taking the under there might be the smart play.
Yeah, but I could never in a million years take the under against the Baltimore Orioles in my life. Could never do that and look at myself in the mirror, putting my own hard work money on the line against the Baltimore Orioles and taking an under. No, I think the Yankees are going to come back home, hit like they do it. They're going to pepper right field. Just even against a guy they don't even know, it's going to be salt in the wound. We're like, you know what? You've had a couple starts. We don't know who you are. Still going to go over the short porch. Not going to hit booming home runs. Going to hit the short porch and make it hurt more.
They're in Baltimore.
In Baltimore, even better.
Still, they're going to hit it over the new long porch in Baltimore. The left field long porch.
Even better. I mean, this is where Gleyber Torres absolutely marches. I don't know why, in my God's name, I was thinking this was back at Yankee Stadium.
I don't know. The schedule is weird because like they've played Toronto and Baltimore seemingly every week, and they still have not faced Tampa, and they've only played.
I mean,
Boston
honestly,
once.
The point stands. It doesn't really matter whether you're in Baltimore or New York.
Yankee Stadium South.
When you're exactly, and you're pitching, you're going up against the Orioles pitching, who has just been taken by the Yankees multiple times, and this is the team that doesn't let up.
You'll bet the over. I think I'm going to bet the under. Bradish was pretty good in his last time out, and I don't know. It seems like no matter who's wearing the Yankee uniform, they can't hit the guy that they've never seen before. And I mean, the last 2 days, right? Like the Yankees offense kind of went cold after being so hot in the first 2 games. So
we'll see if Dew's a real thing, because they're due.
Yeah, that's true. But 8.5, I'm taking the under. You're taking the over. Either way, I think the Yankees are going to win. Again, you can bet using the WinBet app. Download it. Use code XBlueWire for that special offer. A couple mailbag questions before we wrap it up. This one comes from Colin Francis Bentley in the Bronx Pinstripes Show Facebook group. He says, I have a legit question. Did Sanchez single-handedly destroy the Yankees for years? And then I want to read the follow-up comment, which I actually laughed out loud at, from Matt Krantz, our guy Matt Krantz. No, having 8 guys who did the same thing for years did, which I thought was a great comeback.
It is true. The makeup was a big problem of what this team was, but the catching situation was not a good situation. It just wasn't. He just wasn't the guy. I think that looking at him catch and just go through all of it. It was emotionally exhausting, to be honest. It was emotionally exhausting because you had the people that defended him for, their entire lives. Like
I was one of them that was mostly defending
anything.
him.
Yeah. And then I'm sitting there like, I don't get it. But I understand the potential, and that's why they're doing this. And because he's cheap, that all makes sense. But as soon as you start getting to the end of that contract, like the writing's on the wall. It's just not happening. So that was a saga that was also a talking point. It felt like every week of the year. It really did. It was one of those talking points that just never ended and was a consistent battle. I mean, even back to Austin Romine and the Romanites. Like, it's just not a situation you want to deal with. The guy that has all the potential in the world and just hasn't lived up to it since the first 2 years he's in the league. Not a great situation.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say Sanchez single-handedly ruined the Yankees.
No, he did not.
However, the catching situation the last couple years was poison for that team. And just getting rid of the poison out of the clubhouse, like the catching situation, no one would say is by any means the best position on the Yankees field right now, but it's not a problem. And it just not being a problem is a positive thing. It's been a positive thing for this team. And I'm very happy that we're not talking about, oh, the Yankees should have done more at the catching position, because you realize if this team was not in first place and they were, 500, that would be a very big talking point.
But you're also saying that it's not a strength. Like it is a strength. That's the thing. It's just not on the offensive side, but it is an absolute strength on this team because, again, I think the biggest reason a catcher is on the field is to catch the pitcher, call a good game, and play good defense. If they can hit, gravy. Anything is gravy. And Gary Sanchez was just an anomaly. He was a guy that we thought could do both and had a hose of an arm. And unfortunately, it just never panned out. And everybody's just like, oh, waiting. And you don't ever want to be the meme of the guy digging for gold, and you stop right before you find the gold. He ain't finding the gold. The gold ain't there anymore.
So Eric Brenner tweeted me and said the thing that the Yankees need to do to go all the way this year is stay healthy, in all caps. So far, this is the biggest difference between this team and the teams in the past. Has been healthy pitchers, and Stanton and Judge both on the field. Health is not something we've actually really talked about much.
Good,
so
and
far
don't
this
knock
year.
on wood right now, all of you.
Like LeCastro's on the IL. Rortvet didn't have a setback. I think I saw the report
come
today.
on, just please.
But Domingo Germán's been on the 60-day IL. We might see him at some point coming up in the next month. But the starting rotation has been so filthy. Like Domingo Germán ain't sniffing the rotation. So
no.
Health has not been something we've had to talk about, which is obviously a positive thing. Do you agree with Eric? Health is the number one factor here to the ultimate success of this team.
Yeah, I mean, I think with any team that has the talent to be in the hunt at the end of the year, you could probably point to health as one of the biggest factors if a team either did or didn't succeed. I mean, even going back to last year, DJ LeMahieu was on the team and playing and active, but he clearly was not the right guy. Was not the same guy. Was had this nagging injury with the hernia, and just wasn't that type of guy. So you can't realize your potential when you're that banged up, or if you have guys that are out for a significant amount of time. So yeah, I think health is a huge factor about this. What's interesting to me though as well, and I'd love to see early days, like what we're thinking here as far as the load management and all of this stuff, because if we're looking at this in September and August, we'll point back and be like, see those days off, like load management, and hasn't been very obvious where the load management has been happening.
No, guys have been getting rest days. I mean, they've been filtering rest days.
It doesn't feel excessive though. Last year felt like there were like very.
It was
strict
more talked about last year because they were bad. And then they would be going for, Judge would be sitting the last day in Tampa when they're trying to win a series. And it's like, you're a game under 500 and it's June and you want to win a freaking game against Tampa and Judge isn't playing. You're like, it's very noticeable.
So we're kind of watching it right now where it's in the dance. It's in step. Like they're doing it and not missing a beat. They're having these days off and the guy that's filling in is doing well, or they're shifting around. And this is the way it's supposed to happen, right? Like this is the way it's supposed to happen. These days off, and you're not supposed to feel it. And I think that's one of the biggest things for fans when they don't know enough about it, when they're looking at, and for me, I'm guilty of it as well. When I look back and I can feel it, like I don't want to feel it. I want you to do that, but do it in a way that feels smart and feels efficient for the team. And granted, everybody being healthy it helps that, no doubt about it. But it seems like they've done a really good job at rotating guys around so that they do have enough of healthy bodies when their numbers are called.
positionally, do you think they're more equipped to weather an injury storm in the infield or the outfield?
Oh, in the infield or the outfield? Probably the infield right now. Because you also have some
Stanton's
depth
your
in the guy
minors.
out there consistently as your quote fourth outfielder, then so I'd say the infield has more scenarios where I think they'd be fine.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, certainly if first, second, or third has an injury, like it's easy to just slot the pieces around. It gets really interesting what they do if IKF gets a long injury and what they'll do for like a 2-month span to fill in shortstop.
That's the biggest one. That's the biggest one in the infield. I'd say center field was probably also that position. If you're looking at the one position that's the hardest, because you don't want Judge to be in center field at all times.
He's been playing center field more than Hicks. It feels like.
I would argue, or I would guess that, you know, if we're looking at again this fluid management system of making sure that guys are healthy into the end of the year, part of that system is probably not having Judge in center field on a nightly basis.
I guess, but
and LeCastro's hurt, so
to me it feels like Judge is playing just as much center field as Hicks is.
Yeah, he's playing a good amount of it. But so if we're looking at the outfield, the center field would be the one, and then obviously shortstop, because you have Marwin Gonzalez or God forbid Glaber sliding over. Who knows what they would do long term there.
Yeah. All right, that's going to wrap it up. Thank you guys for tweeting those mailbag questions and posting in the Facebook group. You can also send an email. You go to bronxpinstripes.com/podcast, and you can submit the mailbags there, or you can DM us on Twitter, or tweet us on Twitter.
Tweet us, DM us, Twitter. Hada.
Anything else you want to touch on, Scott?
No, man, let's go to Yankee Stadium South and kick some ass. Let's score 9 runs tomorrow. Thank you.
All right. We'll talk to you guys in a couple days.